What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mike Dolce Show. Good to see you guys. It has been quite a bit since I was able to jump on here live. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat when I'm done ranting about UFC Fighter Pay. I'm going to answer some of your questions: health, fitness, finance, fighting, whatever you want to talk about. I'm happy to have the chat with you. And always feel free to just say FU Dolce, which is a compliment to insiders of this channel who know the FU stands for effing unbelievable content. Good to see you guys back once again. Now, we wanted to talk about UFC Fighter Pay and explain this to those of you who might not really understand how this works. So I'm going to assume you don't really know anything about what these athletes make, and we'll break it down. When we have the UFC, we're talking about the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the #1 combat sports promotion in the world, recently sold for over $4 billion, now is valued somewhere closer to $6 billion. They say. Who they are, I don't know. We'll say somewhere between $4 and $6 billion the UFC is worth. The UFC has a roster of nearly 600 athletes competing in weight classes from 115 pounds all the way up to heavyweight, which caps at 265. They have males and females competing in the majority of these divisions, with the females competing at 115, 125, 135, and 145, where the men continue on to 55, 70, 85, 205, and then heavyweight. That's a lot of weight classes to fill. But the totality of athletes competing inside the UFC as compared to the other licensed professional athletes competing in North America or internationally, it's just really scratching the surface. When you get to the UFC, the athlete thinks they've made it. They finally made it. They signed with the Patriots. They signed with the Yankees. They signed with the Lakers. They've made it, the top organization in the world. And that is correct in a few ways. It's correct that they are now competing on the largest platform imaginable within their given skill set, their career choice, their profession, mixed martial arts, combat sports. They're doing this at the very highest level. They're making more money now than they've likely never ever made before, but that is still a very small amount of money in the big picture. And I'm going to explain that to you right now. So just follow along with me here for another 2 minutes or so. When the athlete makes their way into the UFC, they are then offered a 4-fight contract. These are standard contracts, boilerplate, excuse me. Everyone gets these. There's no negotiating these unless you are CM Punk, unless you are Ben Askren, unless you are someone bringing some heat and an audience from another organization or platform. The rank and file UFC athlete, regardless of who they are, is showing up and starting at the 10 and 10 deal. What is that? That's $10,000 to show up, $10,000 if you win. And if you win, you then graduate to 12 and 12. 12 to show, 12 to win, 14 to show, 14 to win. And then you have 1 fight left on your contract. And that is usually where the UFC will renegotiate with you if they want you to stay. Most of the times they do. You only move up in your contract pay if you win the fight. So if you show up for fight 1, you make $10,000 to show up, $10,000 supposedly to win, but you lose, you're frozen at $10,000, which means your second fight, you don't fight for 12 and 12. You are only fighting for 10 and 10. Until you get that win at that pay level, you do not progress to the next. This is challenging because if we think about this, especially at the lower tier, that $2,000 represents a 20% pay increase. Could you imagine if your boss right now said, I'm going to give you a 20% raise? Or they said next week, I'm going to pay you the same money to do 20% more work and responsibilities, or I'm going to pay you 20% less for the exact same work you just put in. It's pretty substantial when you think about it like that. Now, let's say you go 3 and 4 in the UFC. You're good enough to move on to the next tier. What does that mean? That means now you're knocking at a starting point around $20,000. Remember, you went from 10-10, 12-12, 14-14, and maybe you'll 16, but the UFC likes you enough, or you lost fight number 2 on you. Guess what? You're probably starting back somewhere right around 18-22. Let's say 20. You're going to jump from 20-20. You win that 23-23. Maybe they're going to offer you 22-22, but maybe you'll bump that up a little bit. Hopefully you win that. Now you're moving up to 26-26, knocking on the door again. You're going to move through these pay tiers. So when the athletes say they don't make enough money, what they're really saying is they don't feel that they're being compensated enough for the amount of money they're generating for the company. Because when they start, they're making no money. They're making garbage, but the garbage is better than they were making. They were damn near doing this for free. So the mind of the athlete right here, I want to share with you. As they're progressing through 10-10, 12-12, 14-14, they move through this. And then they get into the 20s. That's not bad, some might say, but they're fighting 3 times a year, if they're lucky, once every 4 to 6 months to really average it out. Let's say the athlete wins at 20-20. They got 40 grand. 5 months later, they compete again, but they lose. And they only got 20. Now they made 60 grand for the year, but they tweaked their knee and their back. And what happens? Now they have to take 8 months off. So they made 60 grand last year, 8 months off without a paycheck before they can go in and fight again for the same rate they just fought for. Remember, because they got hurt, they lost the fight, they got hurt, and now they have to take 6 to 8 months to heal and come back. This is where it really starts to get hard, because now the athletes fight 5, fight 6, fight 7 into the deal. And after a while, it's like, man, I've been a pro athlete for 2.5, 3 years now, and I'm still barely making any money. I'm barely making middle-class money right now. Not to be disrespectful, but the athlete thinks they deserve more. And do they? Well, some do. But let's think about this for a second. The NFL offers the rookie minimum. You're a first season rookie in the NFL. You're guaranteed $610,000 salary that year. That's approximately $60,000 per month, give or take. If you're a Major League Baseball player, rookie year, first year right out of college, $563 million year one. NBA, somewhere approximately between 500 and 800. Those stats were floating around a little bit. So let's say 600. In the NHL, 700. So anywhere between $500,000 and $800,000 for the rookie year. That's what these other organized sports rookies are getting. Similar age, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids, respectfully, if you will, just starting out in the job market. They're walking in already half millionaires. Within 2 years, they're millionaire pluses. Maybe some endorsements come through that are not regulated by the organization, like the organization regulates in many ways with the athletes, but they control the cameras. Same thing with the MLB, NBA. They can't wear their own sponsors, but they can wear the sneakers, and it changes a little bit. They can wear the Nikes. They can wear the Adidas. They can wear the whatever else it might be. The athletes can't do any of that, so they don't get that little extra cash. Now, I'm not saying any of this is good or bad. I'm not offering opinion. I'm saying this is the way it is. Let's say you get through that second contract, and now you're on your third contract. You're looking at like fights, 3, 6. So you've gotten through 6 fights, maybe 7 fights. Now you're looking at fights 8, 9, 10, and 11, somewhere in that range. You're breaking double digits. This contract is going to bump up. Let's say you go through the 20s, you finish at 28 on that second contract. Now, most likely, you're going to bump into the 40s. You're going to probably bump somewhere around into the 40s or so because you've shown you've got some grit. Now, with the win, you're going to be clearing 6 figures with a win. 45 and 45, 49 and 49, 52 and 52. In this contract, you're going to start breaking 6 figures. If you're lucky, you're fighting tougher athletes for sure. And your win-loss ratio is now going to start bumping up and down. You're not guaranteed of these wins. You put on exciting fights, you'll keep coming back. You'll keep coming back. But it's the next contract that is probably the most important contract for a lot of the athletes. This is where they make that leap year money. What is leap year money? Leap year money is the money that you make each fight that will start taking years off your career from a financial perspective. So what does that mean? That says now, instead of making 45 and 45, now you're guaranteed 120 and you get 40 or 50 with a win. That becomes completely different now. Now you're really escalating into a new tier. That's for another, anywhere probably between 6 to 8 fight contract. You re-up that contract if you get in the title contention. You get in the title contention, you get a nice 6-figure guarantee, 250, $500,000 to challenge for the title. You win the title, then finally you have access to some of those basic pay-per-view points. Now, those pay-per-view points, likely they don't kick in until 300, 400,000 buys, depending on some athletes. Other athletes can get them a little bit lower. This is a little quick and dirty, a little general. But think about how many years and how many fights you have to get to before you finally get to the doctor money, the lawyer money, the veterinarian money, the pharmacist money. I could spend 6 years in school and walk out with a degree that can turn 150 to 300K a year pretty quick, right? So the athlete's spending that same amount of time to get to the point that they can make that money, but it's such a risky bet because most doctors, they can pretty much work for 40, 50, 60 years. Most fighters can only fight for 4 to 12 on average. So the athlete, and this is why, to close the loop, guys like Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor and whoever else is out there screaming about fighter pay, because they understand every time they go out there, it could be their last fight, and the window is closing rapidly on how much longer they can fight. I disagree with what Dana White said. I do think that mixed martial arts is a career. Their time in the UFC might not be a career, but they've crafted a career inside mixed martial arts, inside combat sports. That career starts their amateur career. Then they have a professional career that starts out on the regional circuit, and it's not turning big cash, but they finally get to the point, to the position, to that corner job. That's what the UFC is. It's that high level corner job. They're trying to buy in as a partner like Conor, theoretically is able to do. Most of the other athletes aren't there. So they're trying to get that big paycheck. They're trying to add one more zero to the back of their paycheck to create that leap year, leap decade for many of those. So athletes like Masvidal, I don't know the exact specifics of his contract, but a guy like Masvidal probably cleared low 7 figures for the Nate Diaz fight, right? Let's say $1 to $3 million to keep it pretty wide range. Awesome money. So happy to see a guy like Masvidal get that, being in the game for so long to get that good payday. Now, bigger fights are coming his way, but with bigger fights, he wants bigger paychecks. And this is where the heels dig in, because the organization doesn't want to give away those big numbers. They give them to George, then they got to give them to everybody. They got to give them to John. They got to give them to Khabib. They got to give them to Stipe and Daniel and everybody else in between. Adesanya and everybody else. Bang. Add a zero to everyone. All of a sudden, there's no more black in the budget. It's only red in the budget, and the accountants start freaking out. So that's where the negotiation, that's where the battle begins. In the beginning, for most UFC fighters, there's no negotiation. You get your 4-fight deal. You get your next 4-fight deal. You get your next 4-fight deal, and now there's some wiggle room between how hard you fight, how much you bleed, how much you say yes, how easy you are to work with, how pleasing you are, what your social media looks like. There's some wiggle room there. The next 4-fight deal, man, are you a contender? Are you able to carry co-mains and main events? If you can't, you're in the middle of the packer making a couple $100,000 a year. No disrespect. Again, I say this because, man, it's a tough way to make a living. Look at Jim Miller. A guy like Jim Miller is going to be clearing a couple $100,000 a year. Easy. Doing what he's doing. I don't know, and Jim well enough to know, I don't think Jim Miller really cares at this point in his career about trying to fight his way up the rankings to get to the world title. I think he's very happy taking home $200K per fight, fighting 6-8 months apart, once, twice a year. That's pretty good. So most athletes should be thinking like Jim Miller. They should be trying to construct careers like a Jim Miller, maybe like a Donald Cerrone, but more like a Jim Miller. To be in there, to be getting it done, to be running through these 4-fight deals, getting to these leap year contracts. And if things go well, quite possibly getting to the point that now you could smell the pay-per-views, but are you pushing those cards? Are you selling those cards? Are you resonating? Are you putting all that additional time in? Masvidal is right there. He's on the cusp. My opinion, Masvidal going out fighting and beating Usman, that puts Masvidal in the position to start making 7 figures, or 8 figures, excuse me. $10 million guarantees, I would think. If Jorge Masvidal beats Kamaru Usman, Masvidal is a $10 million fighter. In my mind, and I think he could probably negotiate, because then he's only looking for big fights. Then Conor comes back. Then George St. Pierre comes back. Then maybe Khabib comes up and threatens to be a 2-division world title holder. Some pretty big fights, because Masvidal, former 55-pounder. Some big fights certainly pop up at that point. Now, to close this loop and to jump into some of your questions, remember, leave any questions here, guys and gals. I appreciate you being here. This is just a little quick and dirty, generalized inside information about how these basic contracts work. They're 3 and 4 fight deals in the beginning, 6 to 8 fight deals as they get a little bit deeper into their careers and time in the organization. But again, you don't get into the UFC assuming you're going to be an immediate millionaire. No, you're going to be middle class. You're going to be low middle class in the beginning, and you're going to be working your side gig, teaching your privates, doing what you're doing, hopefully getting educated, getting a degree, getting another skill set behind you, investing your money, thinking about retirement, looking into 401ks and Roth IRAs, establishing that, getting a little condo, renting it out, paid for, cash free, building a base of assets that can cash flow. Hopefully that's what these athletes are doing with this money. Most are not. That's another conversation that we'll have. But as they continue and as they grow and as they start to go up these 4-fight contracts, they're making these larger jumps, getting to that 3rd contract, that 4th contract. That's where the big money is made. That's where the big money is made. And that's where the athletes really need to start paying attention to their persona, the fights that they take. Now, me personally, I think George, now I don't know his bank account. If George did say yes to the Usman fight, negotiated the best money he could get, which who knows how much it is, probably $500,000 to show up, another extra couple mil. Maybe he's knocking on the door of $1 million to fight Usman. I'm assuming that's close to it. He'd walk away with about $1 million or so for the Usman victory. Bang. Then the big money comes. That's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. George is a smart guy. He's been in the game a long time. He's got Malky Kawa, Abe Kawa, first-round management who do a great job. Them and Ali with dominance. They do the best jobs. I see the contracts. I know what their athletes get. Their athletes get paid better than nearly any other. We got to say Audi Attar because he works with Conor McGregor, Chris Weidman, and a few others out there. Bisping. Those guys made some serious money too, so got to put Audi on the list. And there's a couple other good ones, but that's really kind of the power position in the negotiating. Those individuals know what the real numbers are, and it'd be interesting to see how this plays out. What are your thoughts? I want to hear your thoughts below. Leave them in the comments after you watch this video. How much do you think Jorge Masvidal should get paid to fight Kamaru Usman for the world title? How much do you think entry-level UFC fighters should get, knowing NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL are getting a minimum $500,000, $500,000 to $800,000 just to show up for their rookie season, where the best UFC athlete is going to walk away with 60, 10 and 10, well, a little over 60, almost 70, 10 and 10, 12 and 12, 14 and 14. That's what they're getting to go out there for a years of performance. What do you think? Leave in the comment below. If you have not yet, bang, bang. Give this video a thumbs up. It's been a while since you gave some thumbs up or since I asked for them, and I do appreciate you guys being here. Let me ask any questions, answer any questions. Greg says, how do you make your lasagna? I say, yo, Brandy, make some lasagna. That's not actually how it goes. Brandy says, do you want lasagna? And I say, I would love some. I'm terrible at baking. She's amazing at it, by the way. So anything in the oven, I'm not that guy. Anything on fire, man, fire in a grill, a skillet, woo, I get it done. Philosopher, what's up? What's up? Joe Blogs, if you coach this cold water immersion, stunt muscle growth. No, I've seen no data to support that. Hell yeah. Renee Jamie, he has a pic of himself in the background. Oh, I got a pic of myself in my wallet. What's up? You got a problem with that? Have more self-confidence. Why not? Steve Glover, hey, Mike, I have so much respect for you. Just started your 3 weeks to Shredded online. Steve, I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you so much. Whatever I can do to help you, support you, cheer for you, challenge you, motivate you, my friend, I am here for you, Steve Glover. Please keep me posted on your progress. Get ready. Start saving your cash. You're going to need to buy a new wardrobe in a few weeks, my friend. Keep me posted. From Toronto, Canada. Hell yeah. Sri V says, but in other organized sports, you are required to work every week as opposed to combat sports. Well, here's the thing, Sri V. In combat sports, you're required to work 52 weeks. Combat sports is the hardest sport in the world. There's no week off. There's no day off. Your day off is a recovery day. You're at the physio. You're in the hot tub. You're in the infrared sauna. You're in the cold water immersion. You're at the chiropractor, you're visualizing, you're stretching, you're at a yoga class, Pilates, you're getting fitted for a new ankle brace, whatever that might be, right? That's the way it is. As a combat athlete, man, it's more work. It's more work. Unfortunately, most mixed martial artists, they don't work as hard as the Tom Bradys and the other athletes, the Kobe Bryants, rest in peace, LeBron James, the other athletes out there, the Derek Jeters. Zach C. What's up, Zach C? Good to see you, my man. It's been a while. Hope all's well. Thank you for the $2 super chat donation. We do appreciate that. Masvidal versus Colby. Ooh, I love that. And FBJ and Zig. Bang. Amen. Of course. You know I agree with that. Chris Ingram, great content coach. Just started another round of 3 weeks to Shredded. Hell yeah. I can't wait to see how that goes, Zach. Right on, my friend, or Zach, excuse me, right on, Chris. Thank you, my man. Keep me posted. I want to hear about these results. You're already killing it, Chris. Can't wait to see what's next, brother. Adam, Big Mike doing it big. Appreciate your insight, brother. Adam, I'm just trying to share. I was sitting here and I was like, hey, I had a conversation with another insider. We were talking about some fighter pay and some other things that are going on. And I said, you know what? Let me share it with you guys. Whoever wants to listen, whoever wants to hear it, that's the way it works. That's the way it works. There's no hocus pocus. It's very simple. The first couple contracts, they're boilerplates. You're not negotiating. You're not negotiating. It's 10-10. You want to get into the UFC, it's 10-10. Win some fights. Let's talk. Unless they're coming from another organization, unless it's Eddie Alvarez coming from Bellator, maybe Mike Chandler is able to pop over and come over. Who knows how that's going to go? Unless you're coming from another organization, unless you're Kurt Angle, right? Unless you're James Toney, unless you're CM Punk coming from another sport, Brock Lesnar, right? Look at the cash Brock Lesnar generated because he sold pay-per-views. He sold cards. He carried cards. When you're coming up, it's not a proven commodity. You're not a proven commodity yet. Nobody knows what you can do. So you're going to take it on the chin, cash-wise. Fighting for $10,000, and I fought for a hell of a lot worse than I fought for $500. I fought for $300. Professional fights, stitch up, sent to the hospital. Couple $100 to the point that I was fighting for tens of thousands of dollars at a point in my career. Still not enough. Still not enough for sure. But the athletes who choose to do it, has to be said, they know what they're signing up for. They know what they're signing up for. They know what they're going to get paid. There's no lying about what they're getting paid. This is what everybody else has been getting paid. Their managers and agents know exactly what all those who came before them were getting paid. So the art is the negotiating, putting yourself in a position that you have some leverage in the negotiation. The biggest leverage in fighting is winning fights. Winning fights and bringing the fan base along with you. That's going to be a challenge, I think, for Masvidal right now because he got a fan base, but if he doesn't fight soon, his fan base will leave him, as all fan bases do, because they're going to jump into the next fight. They're going to want to see the next fight. Let's say Gilbert Burns goes out there and destroys Usman. They're going to say, holy cow, Burns is the greatest fighter on the planet. He just never had a chance to show it. Once he moved up a weight class, he destroyed Maia. He destroyed Woodley. Who else? He got another big win. He destroyed Gunnar Nelson. Top guys. Maia fought for the middleweight world title against Anderson Silva, was a perennial ranked contender, world champion in submission in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Woodley was a reigning world champion, a very dominant world champion. Gilbert Durinho ripped through them. Right? Ripped through them. So Durinho goes out there, beats Usman. Durinho then becomes the kingpin of the division. Man, that's going to take a lot of hype from George. away from that. So it's always interesting to sit back and watch how these things go. Now, George is a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He's got a good team. He's got some cash in the bank. It sounds like, so he can sit back and make some decisions and see how it goes. But the UFC doesn't always play the game. The UFC doesn't negotiate based upon a playbook, right? They've been doing it long enough to know what they're doing, and that's where a challenge comes. So it'll be interesting to see who gives what. Maybe Masvidal does come back and he gets $4 million for a world title fight. I don't know. Maybe it happens. Maybe he gets a 1.5 guarantee with a little sniff on the back end at first, where that escalates, has a bunch of levers you built in that escalates moving forward. Maybe, I don't know. Could be, should be. But if you like this content, guys and gals, and I'll talk about Mike Perry versus Nate Diaz here in a second, give this video a thumbs up. Bang, bang. I appreciate that. It lets me know you're there. It lets me know you care. It's the only thing I ask for. Steve Glover says, Mike Perry versus Nate Diaz. I like that fight. Why do I like that fight? I like that fight because that fight doesn't matter other than it's a fist fight. It's a good fight. It's a fight you want to see. I want to see. Somebody's going to get knocked out or choked out. The odds are, if Nate Diaz is the same Nate Diaz he was before he fought Jorge Masvidal, Nate Diaz wins that fight pretty easily. I think the way he beat Conor McGregor, which is going to be wrapped up on the ground, some sort of slick submission. Nate Diaz is a handful. If that Masvidal fight and all the time Nate Diaz and his brother Nick have taken off in contract disputes, if that time off has changed their lifestyle, changed their hunger, changed their perspective, changed their skill set, changed their timing, changed that drive, Mike Perry could get the big win. Mike Perry gets that big win. Then Mike Perry now is in that leverage position that I want to see Masvidal get into. You win the big fight, you beat the big name, now you're in a position. Not that Perry's going to get $3 million or even Masvidal money, but Perry will get bigger money. Much bigger money than what he's currently getting with the win over Nate Diaz. He'll be probably 6 fights away from being in Masvidal's position, where he'll be crying out now. He wants, not crying in a bad way, but screaming how he wants the bigger payday. Adding the zero, right? We say add the zero to the back of the paycheck. That's the goal here. You make $6,000 a fight, you want to make 60. You make 60, you want to make 600. You make 600, you want to make 6 million. That's the way it goes. If you're making these smaller, if you're asking and thinking and wanting these smaller jumps, it's going to be a little harder unless your goal is at Jim Miller style. It's have those leap year fights. Every one of these fights wipes completely a year off the table. You don't have to work for another year. The goal, hopefully, for these athletes in the 4-6 years in their UFC is to earn 40 to 60 years worth of income. Now, it can be through investments. We'll talk about that in another video, where they can generate enough capital now to invest away that will build them recurring revenue. Let's say they have $1 million. They get a 10% annual return on the $1 million. They have $100,000 a year. They're living on 40 to 60 grand. Let's say now they have 2, 3, 4, $5 million. You got $5 million in the bank. Bang. It's making 10% a year. That's 500,000. You're pulling 250 out to live a great lifestyle. All your bills are paid. Your houses are paid for. Your cars are paid for. Everything's paid for. And then you're paying yourself 10 G's a month to just go and travel and live and have a nice lifestyle. That's while so your money continues to keep growing. That's what some of these athletes should be doing. Most don't do that. And that's what I actually just spoke with Dr. Bo Hightower about, which will be on tomorrow's podcast. Dr. Bo Hightower on the Mike Dolce Show audio podcast. Make sure you listen on Spotify, on Google Play, on iTunes, on Stitcher, on iHeartRadio. Everywhere podcasts are, you will find the Mike Dolce Show podcast. Coach, my fat butt is stuck at 222 and my goal is 200. How do I shock my system to continue weight loss? Adam, you need to go to thedolcediet.com right now. You need to start our 4-week, 3 weeks to shredded program. We give you that one bonus week to transition in, to get your life right, or to really go hard at the end. The 3 weeks to shredded program right now at thedolcediet.com. Every meal, every recipe, every workout, every set, every rep, every rest period is detailed specifically for you, personalized for your exact need, your background, your lifestyle, your goals, all at thedolcediet.com. And I'm going to give you my personal unpublished promo code SHREDDED. One time will save you 30% right now at thedolcediet.com to start your own 4-week, 3 weeks to shredded program. 100% money back guarantee because I'm that awesome. If you don't like it, if it's not what you expected, if I can't eat all this amazing, delicious food and get super ripped and sexy in such a short period of time, if that's what you say, then no problem. Read the T's and C's and bang, money back. Have fun. Do your thing. Stay at 222. I'm just kidding. But really, we're here to help whatever we can do. Go to thedolcediet.com, Adam. I'm here for you, man. I'm here. I'm on Instagram every day. I'm on Twitter. I'm here on YouTube. Much more busy on YouTube. We'll be moving forward. I'm here for you guys. Also, anyone who's had an amazing Dolce Diet transformation, send me an email to mailbag@thedolcediet.com. Send it a DM on Instagram or on Twitter, before and after, with a little testimonial. We won't publish anything unless we have your permission. I send you a little question. You say, yeah, go ahead. Send it thinking that we will post it down the road. We're working on a really cool project here, and we're looking to get some of our awesome community members to talk about some of your inspirational, life-changing transformations. What did you do? How did your body change? How did your health change? How did your perspective on the world change? So we got a really cool project here that we're trying to get a lot of our community to be a part of. I think that's it, guys and gals. Adam, boom, much love right back to you. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you guys very much. And until next time, boom.